In the AFC Conference Championship, Pittsburgh is a 6-point home favorite over Baltimore, up from 5 with the total at 34. And once again joining us to help analyze all this is SBR moderator Justin Seven. Justin?
Hey, Peter.
The first thing I want to talk about is the total, not the side. Now, I want to talk about the total because it's interesting. Last week in Baltimore's game, you correctly analyzed that the under was a good play. That was also a game that had a very low total, almost an identical total of 34, Baltimore against Tennessee. You said that the fair value in that game was about 31, and the under did turn out to be a winner. And the only difference in this game might just be that Pittsburgh has an even tougher defense than Tennessee. Pittsburgh, of course, has the top defense in the league. However, there are some reasons to think that the under might not be as good a play here as it was last week. First of all, the line did open at 33 and got bet up to 34. That's not a good sign. It means the early money liked the over. Second of all, these two teams, despite being defense-oriented over the past bunch of years, have not really trended under in their games. Actually, 7 out of the last 8 games in Pittsburgh between these two teams have gone over. Now, I know that that goes back a while, but these teams have tended to have the same kinds of systems and styles of play over the years. And so that does give me pause. Also, the game earlier in the year at Pittsburgh went to 40 points in regulation, wound up being a 23-20 game, 43 points total. So what do you think, Justin? Do you think that this low total is still a bit too high like you did last week with Baltimore?
Yes, I like the under. I made the fair total about 31. So I think it's, and like last week, and like all the games between Pittsburgh and Baltimore this year, I think it's either going to come down to field goals or a defensive score like it did in the one that Pittsburgh won. Okay,
now how about the weather? Would the late-breaking weather report on this game affect your opinion? I've read that there's a 50% chance of rain or snow in this game, and of course at Pittsburgh, windy conditions are always a strong possibility.
Snow and rain don't affect my analysis of a total very much, but if it's very windy, that would certainly contribute to the under even more.
Now I want to get your take on a likely performance of two key players. I think that the respective performances of these two players are going to be the keys to this game. That's Pittsburgh running back Willie Parker, fast Willie Parker, and Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco. Now, Willie Parker, of course, was injured for most of the year, but now he's as healthy as he's been all year, and he's definitely peaking. He's shown in his last few games, including his 140-yard effort last week, that he's back in the game and that he's in full swing. And I'm wondering if Parker might not be exploiting a possible weak spot in Baltimore's defense. Baltimore obviously has an awesome defense, and they were great last week in shutting down Tennessee's power runner, Lendale White. But Tennessee's speed runner, Chris Johnson, was really gashing them. I think he gained like 72 yards and 11 carries, something like that. And if he got injured, of course, and if Johnson hadn't gotten injured, that game might have turned out very, very differently. Johnson gave Tennessee's offense a whole different dimension, and Willie Parker is a very similar kind of runner to Chris Johnson, and is definitely of the same caliber as he is. And I'm wondering if this is this. Do you consider this to be a weak spot in Baltimore's defense?
I have two thoughts on that. First, last week, there was one of those rushes was for 32 yards. And that occasionally you give up a big run, but if you get rid of that one, he was averaging less than 4 yards a carry. So I don't think Baltimore has a soft spot against speed runners. The second thing Pittsburgh's going to have a problem with, their offense is not as good as Tennessee. Their passing game isn't as good as Tennessee's. They gave up 49 sacks this year. So Baltimore's going to create a lot of problems for Pittsburgh's offense. And that's going to hurt the running game because they're not going to have to spend as much energy defending the pass.
Okay, so you don't necessarily see Parker as poised for a particularly big day.
I'd be surprised if he had more than 70 yards rushing on the day.
The next thing I want to talk about is Baltimore quarterback Joe Flacco. Now, this guy has been much debated. You know, he's a rookie. Everyone talks about how calm he is, which is great. His numbers haven't been so great. His yardage is not that great. His pass completion, his completion percentage is not that great. What he does do really well, though, is he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. In the playoffs, he's had no fumbles, no interceptions. What do you think, though, his likely performances here against a top defense like Pittsburgh?
He's not going to be able to win the game playing just boring and conservative. Pittsburgh's defense is phenomenal. They're the best in the league, and he's not going to just sit back and throw short passes or conservative plays. I mean, he's going to have to take some chances, or Baltimore's not going to score a single touchdown. So I don't know if how it's going to break down, but I think he's more likely to have to throw 2 interceptions and he has 2 touchdown passes.
All right. Well, in light of all that, what do you think about the spread here? Of course, Pittsburgh and Baltimore played twice already this year. The margins were 3 and 4. This game has a line of 6. Is Baltimore not really getting enough respect here?
I think the line's pretty close to right. At 6, I don't have any real opinion. At 6.5, I definitely take Baltimore.
All right. Are there any other factors that you think are going to impact either value on either side here, besides the obvious of Flacco and Parker and Pittsburgh's awesome D?
Well, when you have excruciatingly good defenses against, I'm going to call both of them. Well, Pittsburgh's offense is below average. Baltimore's offense is average. When you have a mismatch where both sides of the field have their defense is so much stronger, the kicking game becomes much more important. You know, both of these teams, their defenses give up about as many field goals as touchdowns, and when you go with, I'm going to call them less than stellar offenses, that becomes even more significant. So just like last week, I expect there to be actually more field goals than touchdowns this week. So you need to look at the matchup of the kickers. And in the kickers matchup, Pittsburgh has the edge. Reed hits, he's almost automatic inside the 40, and he's about 75% in the 40-plus range, 40 to 50. Whereas Stover for Baltimore, he's good inside the 30, but he doesn't have that medium range accuracy. So it's I could very easily see Pittsburgh winning this game by a field goal or 2, just based on opportunities from that. Whereas, you know, from the 30-yard line, Pittsburgh could try a field goal. Baltimore would have to either go for it, more likely to go for it or punt from that range.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're expecting yet another low-scoring, close game where points are at a premium, very similar to what Baltimore played last week. And in our last spot last week, we mentioned that Baltimore on a teaser was a bet that might have good value. Now, Baltimore, of course, won that game outright. They caught a bunch of lucky breaks, and they might have maybe they shouldn't have won that game. But even if they hadn't caught the breaks that they did, it looks like they would have covered a teaser of 9 or 10 points here. This is looking like the same kind of game. What do you think about another play on Baltimore as a teaser? They're a 6-point underdog right now, so if you tease them, you can tease them up to maybe 12 or 13, crossing the 7, crossing the 10, and once again we have a low total. What do you think about using Baltimore in a teaser?
I think anytime you have a total under 33. Teasing any dog is probably a good play. So yes, I don't mind teasing Baltimore in the set. But again, you know, who do you want to tease them with? Okay,
and one more thing that I just want to mention that you can comment on or not is the factor of health and injuries. The reports are saying that Baltimore is very banged up. There were a lot of guys who didn't practice or were limited in practice this week for Baltimore. A lot of key names, big players. All those guys are slated to play, but they might be hobbled a bit. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is reportedly very healthy. Willie Parker and others, all those guys practiced, and the reports are that Pittsburgh is as healthy as they've been since the beginning of the year. What do you think about that? You think that has any impact? Does that affect your thinking at all, Justin?
If a player is listed as doubtful, it matters. If he's questionable or probable, I don't put much weight in it. So I don't think there's, I would not adjust the spread on this game based on Baltimore being banged up.
Okay, great. Thanks again. So you have a lean to the under, and you think there's legitimate value with Baltimore on a teaser. Is that correct?
I have more than a lean. I actually like the under in this game.
Okay, thanks again, Justin. All right, well, there we have it. Expect another close and low-scoring game here. Justin likes another under for Baltimore, and neither one of us has a preference for either side. I have heard, though, that a bunch of money has been coming in late on Baltimore at +6. So watch for possible line movement back down the other way. And also, if there is, in fact, inclement weather and gusting winds, as there often is at Heinz Field, that probably gives even more strength to the under. So watch out for that.